It's a bit of a spur of the moment video this. I'm not well prepared for it. I've only got an old GoPro with not a lot of battery on it and the phone which I'm holding now. So I'm gonna have to be very selective with how I use the GoPro or it'll run out of battery in no time. So there's this dead grand fir here. It's not got a huge base on it by any means, only a couple of feet across maybe, but it's quite tall. It's getting up there. I've got this space. I'll stand back. This space here to bring it down in across this fence where these trees are. That's somebody else's land. I don't think it matters if the odd log bounces across the wire here, as long as I throw them back. But so the most logical way to do it, because it's dead, would be to climb up this adjacent fir, throw the grapple hook across, pull my way over, top the tree, and then work my way down. But this lower stuff is all gonna kind of get in the way. It's awkward when you're working downwards and there's branches below your feet and you're trying to throw logs off. You've got to kind of do the branches first and then throw each log off. So what I'll do is I'll start on the fir tree, I'll work my way up, I'll strip the branches, and then I'll get to a point and then I'll jump across into the live fir, and then I'll grapple across again back into the dead fir. I think I'm going to have to go right to the tips of the dead fir. There's nowhere to send a big top by the looks of it. There's a gap here, but it's going that way towards the shed. So to get the sufficient control of it, I'm going to have to go high, in which case I've got this live tree here. I may as well make the most of it and tie into it. But getting these limbs off first will help me later. So because I've got the line in the bag, it's not pulling the climbing rope down, so this is easy to move up. This is my backup, obviously, to the flip line. And I have this chest support on suspenders, I think they're called. This is the August Hunnicky saddle. So it all just makes it a bit easier when you're carrying the rope bag. It's not kind of dragging the saddle down your waist. So I'll just keep going up further until I think it's time to move across. Does feel like I've got a lot of clutter on, and I'm going to take the rope bag with me as well, hook it on the side of the belt, because I don't want these lower limbs dropping, snagging my rope and sort of pinning me. So but once I'm in the higher stuff, I can drop the rope bag down and it'll be fine. So 35 feet from the top now, the very tips. It's probably strong enough to get up, you know, to 10 foot from the top and be comfortable. There's two options here. You either commit to cutting off a big piece. When I say big, you need it big with weight in, so it has enough momentum to make it through these limbs from adjacent trees. If it wasn't for them, I'd have no issue doing that. But my worry is still that it snags, takes a twist, and falls, and if not, it hit the shed directly, it lands and then hits the shed. So, you know, kind of hits the ground, stands on the butt, and then tips over on one of the sheds. There's three there. So, you know, it's going to take me only a couple of minutes longer to get in that fir tree settle line, and then I can move back across. It just, you know, it's right there begging for it. So why wouldn't I do that? Just to save a couple of minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. Nice easy shots there for the to throw the grapple in. So when I throw the grapple in, see the top is actually leaning back and away. So it was a good move actually, coming up here. Now we can see properly. We're on super wide lens, so everything looks a bit weird and disproportionate. But right there is probably 4 inches across, something like that. When I throw the grapple hook in, I'll test it before I link it to my belt, just to make sure that nothing is going to give up. The wind's blowing, that's why it's moving. But I'll be able to pull the tree to me more than actually, or as much as I cross over, because it'll be that bendy. It's died, I would say, only, I don't know, last year or the year before, because you can see the fine twigs and cones still hanging on there, so it'll still be quite flexible. And this one is very bendy that I'm in, so I'll be able to pull that tree to me. I'll almost be stepping across. So I just want to stand on here and cut off a piece that I can handle, throw it down there somewhere. It'd be better if these small limbs are gone, then I'd have an easy shot, but it'll kind of have to find a gap. But we don't want it to catch in a branch, sort of twist around and land on one of the sheds. So that's why I want to make it small as well, so if that happens the damage will be minimal. So I'll just climb up there now. So I think I'm safe to tie in here. It's not going to collapse on me because it's still got life. Well, not life, but sap. I think go for a big throw is safest. just a half-day job, this one really. I'm about finished now, if you can see behind me. Everything's just staying as it is. The owner's gonna deal with that. So yeah, not a difficult one, not physically hard anyway. Just I just had to be careful. So I should mention as well, when you're using grapple hooks to get into dead trees, more specifically, you noticed I tested it first. I always do that. I always try to simulate more pull on the tree than what I'm likely to put on it when I commit to moving across. And I've never had an issue, but I should mention that I was supposed to do a tree last week, which meant a similar approach. Now the tree was in a much worse state than that grand fir. It was a Douglas fir, and it was just a big soggy snag, but it was leaning the wrong way. There was a fence underneath. It was in a bit of a forest environment like this, but it had to be climbed to bring it down safely, otherwise we'd lose control. If you tried to fall it, it'd end up in the river, and we didn't want that. So anyway, that was my plan when I priced it. Climb the big fir beside it, throw the hook into the top. The hook the top kind of leaned over the wrong direction, but my plan was to, with the support of the adjacent tree, I'd be able to kind of carefully get high enough where I could cut and control the top and get it to drop the way I wanted. But then when I went back to do it a few weeks later, the top that I'd intended to get into, not the live tree, but the part I had to grapple into and climb up, that had actually blown out in the wind. So like 45 foot of the tree had collapsed. Now the wind is going to be more, it will have a greater effect on the tree than what my weight would. But having said that, these things happen now and then, and that's why it's always worth testing before you commit to traversing across into a tree, especially a dead one, because I mean there's no other safe way of doing it, or that would have been the safest way. You wouldn't dare climb it from the bottom. It was much worse than what we've just done there, evidently, as it collapsed in the wind right before I was supposed to do it. So there's a bit of a reminder there that it's you've got to be switched on and just take extra care to make sure that what you're committing to is safe. Even consider having a fail-safe, a weak link in your system. So if anything does collapse, then and you know your hook is still attached to it, something's going to break. Preferably not your climbing system that is in the, you know, your anchor point there. You want the grapple hook or a link in the grapple hook to fail first. That releases you from being dragged. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I hope this video turns out alright. I haven't used that GoPro for a good while. It was just in the truck, battery almost dead, and I looked at the tree and thought, well, maybe I could make something of this. Trying to make the effort lately. Okay, I'll see you next time.